Yeah, you're ready.
Okay. गौरांग करुणा करो दीनहीन जाने मौसम पतिता प्रभु नहीं त्रिभुवाने दंते त्राणधरी गौरा दाकी है तुम्हारे कृपा करेशो আমার হৃদয় মন্দিরে যদি দয়া না করিবে পতিত দেখিয়া পতিত পাবন নামা কিসেরা লাগিয়া পড়িছে ভব তুফানে নাহি কো নিস্তারা শ্রীচরণ তরণী দানে দাসে কর পারা শ্রী কৃষ্ণ চৈতন্য প্রভু দাসের অনুদাসা प्रार्थना करो सदा नरोत्तम दासा गौरांग करुणा करो दीनहीन जाने मौसम पतिता प्रभु नहीं त्रिभुवाने हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे. Translation. Oh my dear Lord Gauranga, please show your mercy to this lowly and destitute soul. O Lord, there is no one more fallen than myself in all the three worlds. Holding grass between my teeth, O Lord Gaura, I am calling out to you now. Please be compassionate upon me and come to reside within the temple of my heart. If you do not give me your mercy, seeing how fallen I am, then why are you known as Patit Pavan, the merciful savior of the fallen? I am plunged amidst the violent hurricane-stricken waves in the ocean of the material world, from which there is no escape. Kindly give me the gift of your divine lotus feet, which are compared to a boat in which your servant may cross over the ocean of birth and death. Narottam Das, the servant of Lord Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu, ceaselessly makes this prayer. So we can evaluate ourselves, where is our consciousness and how many anarthas we have. And here Narottam Das Thakur is a pure devotee, is considering himself as the most fallen. There is no more fallen than myself in all the three worlds. So this is a Dainya Bhav, and he's calling out for mercy from Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and saying that please show compassion on me and come to reside in my heart, in the temple of my heart. And if you don't show me mercy, then why would you be called Patit Pavan? And there's so many violent hurricane-stricken waves, meaning my own anarthas that I am struggling with. Please help me cross over this ocean of birth and death. And I want to be the servant of the servant, Dasa Dasa Anudas. So help me with that. Bring that mood in, or bring that service attitude in my path of bhakti. Thank you, Babaji.
Thank you. Yeah, also he's Dainya Bhav, and for us, for the part playing the part of a conditioned soul, uh, we can relate to this. How we are very fallen, and the more fallen and humble we feel ourselves, then the more we can cry out for mercy of the Lord. And yeah, so even in the Guru Vandana, we say, um, by the mercy of the spiritual master, one can cross the ocean of repeated birth and death. So, E Bhava Toriya Jai. What is that line? Shri Guru Charana Padma Kevala Bhavati Sadma Bandhu Mui Savadhana Mate Jahara Prasade Bhai. Prasad means by whose mercy. O brother, Jahara Prasade Bhai, E Bhavatoriya Jai. So, by following the instructions of the spiritual master, Srila Prabhupada, one can cross the ocean. E Bhavatoriya Jai, which is very difficult to cross. Like here also, this is like a tufan. Tufan means like a storm has come in this material world. There is a storm because so many things are happening externally in this world and internally in our consciousness. It's like we are trapped in this stormy situation. So, and I don't see any means of my deliverance. So, from which there nahika nistar. So, you only your lotus feet. If I hold on to your lotus feet, then I can cross this ocean. Basically, you only give me the intelligence and the strength to cross this ocean of material existence. So, without you, it is impossible. So, I'm begging and pleading. This is a pratna, right? This is not from the pratna book. Just a song, right? Okay. And indirectly saying, yeah, if you are not delivering me, then how you can be called Pati Pavan? Means he is imploring the Lord that, yeah, you have come to deliver the fallen. I am very fallen. Why don't you deliver me? Okay, so reside within the temple of my heart. So Lord Chaitanya, that verse is also there in the Mangalacharan of Adi Leela. Anarpitacharim chirat karuna avtirna kalo samarpayito unnat ajvala rasam svabhakti shriyam Hari Purata Sundara Duti Kadamba Sadnapita Sada Hridaya Kandare Suratuva Sachinandana. This verse is a blessing verse, as Dravida Prabhu told me. It's saying that may that Supreme Lord who has appeared in golden complexion may be Hari Purata Sundara Duti Kadamba Sandipita Sada Hridaya Kandare. So maybe he is situated in the innermost chambers. Kandara is like cave. So Hridaya Kandare, may he be situated in the innermost chambers of your heart. So this Lord Chaitanya, we can imagine Lord Chaitanya in our heart, doing Sankirtan with all his devotees. We can visualize like that. If we close our eyes and we think inside, we can see the beautiful Lord Chaitanya along with the Panchatattva and all the Gaur Bhakta Vrinda doing Sankirtan, and we can remember that, the picture, where is a nice picture of Lord Chaitanya doing Sankirtan with all his devotees, with his arms raised. One arm is raised like that, and he's doing. Yesterday, Prabhu was talking how there are some pictures where there is Ras Lila on the top, and then on the beneath there is Gauranga Mahaprabhu doing Sankirtan with his devotees. So that Ras Leela was exclusively reserved only for only few gopis. Not all gopis were allowed. He was saying yesterday that those gopis who were married and who had children, they were not allowed to enter. Only those other gopis who were completely, maybe, I don't know, it's in different mood of surrender. They were participating with Krishna. So it's an exclusive, for Ras Leela is meant for an exclusive set of gopis. But that same highest Unnato Ujjvala Rasam, that highest Ras Leela taste has been, given to us by Lord Chaitanya by through the Sankirtan movement. So yeah, that's the beautiful picture. Yes, he was talking about this. There is gopis and yeah, they are bringing different offerings to Krishna. They're playing. Some gopis are playing musical instruments for Krishna. Some one gopi here is offering some garland to Krishna, and that same rasa Lord Chaitanya is giving us through this Sankirtan movement. So, which was exclusively meant for only a few. Of course, there are so many gopis in the Ras Leela. There are billions of gopis, but still like that. Okay. So basically, I am very fallen, and you are the savior of the fallen. So it's a good combination for me to approach you and get mercy. Okay. Yeah. Any other comments you'd like to say? Okay, we will read the verses from. So this is the battle between Hiranyaksha and Varahadev. So that is described there. The killing of the demon Hiranyaksha. This is not Vraj Leela, but still, even Krishna's killing, everything is there. Until we go to 10th canto, it is described all these Leelas of Krishna in different incarnations, Varaha, Narsingha, Kurma, Matsya, all these things are described to establish the fact that why it is described? Why would we not directly go to Ras 10th canto? What would be the reason that all these other Leelas and other avatars are described? Can anybody think of any reason?
Can you repeat them?
Yeah, I was saying that why all these other Leelas are described, we can directly, because the sweetest of all is Raj Leela. So why not directly go 10 canto? Why there are 9 cantos devoted to describing
We
Raj?
have to be purified. We have to understand the position of the Lord as the supreme enjoyer.
Correct.
Then we can understand the Rajlila. Otherwise, yeah, we can mistaken it, and the anarthas will increase in our heart.
Yes, to establish the supremacy of the Lord and to purify by hearing all this, then we are ready for hearing Vraj Leela. So, okay, so let's see where we are. The Lord who had appeared from the nostril of Brahma sprang and aimed his mace at the chin of his enemy, the Hiranyaksha demon, who was talking fearlessly before him. So, Lord was about to strike him. The Lord also had a mace, and Hiranyaksha also had a mace, and they were fighting. And the Lord was going to hit him at his chin. Struck by the demon's mace, however, the Lord's mace slipped from his hand. So, as the Lord was trying to strike his chin, Hiranyaksha hit with his mace, the Lord's mace, and the Lord's mace fell from his hand. It slipped from his hand and looked splendid as it fell down whirling. So, so we may think how Hiranyaksha is so powerful that he could displace the mace from Varahadev's hands. But this is all Lord's Leela. This was miraculous, for the mace was blazing wonderfully. Even though the demon had an excellent opportunity to strike his unarmed foe without obstruction, now the Lord doesn't have a mace and Hiranyaksha can attack. He respected the law of single combat, thereby kindling the fury of the Supreme Lord. So I think if somebody is without a weapon, then you cannot strike. So he was respecting that. Somebody with weapon cannot strike somebody without a weapon, something like that. And so he was bereft of his mace, so he did not strike. Even the demons are observing some rules and regulations of fighting. As the Lord's mace fell to the ground and a cry of alarm rose from the witnessing crowds of gods and rishis. So the gods and rishis were thinking, oh, this, alas, alas, this, Lord's mace has been, displaced from his hand. He has lost his mace. And they were crying. The personality of God had acknowledged the demon's love of righteousness and therefore invoked his Sudarshan discus. So the mace fell and Krishna was acknowledging, Varahadev was acknowledging, yes, you are behaving very morally. Then invoked his Sudarshan Chakra. As the discus began to revolve in the Lord's hands, so Sudarshan Chakra was in the hand, and the Lord contended at close quarters with the chief of his Vaikuntha attendants, who had been born as Hiranyaksha, a wild son of Diti. There issued from every direction strange expressions uttered by those who were witnessing from airplanes. So a lot of spectators were there in this fight. Some were witnessing from their airplanes. And what happened? The discus Sudarshan Chakra started revolving in the Lord's hand. And he's now, this Hiranyaksha is none other than either Jay or Vijay, one of them. And he is now very close to Hiranyaksha. They had no knowledge of the Lord's reality. So those who were witnessing, they did not understand the Lord's position. And they cried, may victory attend you, pray dispatch him, play no more with him. So they were saying, please kill him, don't play with him anymore. They had no knowledge of the Lord's reality. I don't know if they were aware or not aware of the Lord's. I think they were aware, but I don't know what this means. They had no knowledge of the Lord's reality. Okay. Of course, the Lord is always victorious. He is Ajita. He cannot be conquered. The Lord cannot be conquered. Unless only by pure devotion, the Lord can be conquered. But otherwise, nobody can conquer the Lord. When the demon saw the personality of Godhead, who had eyes just like lotus petals. So even in Varaha form as a boar, he was very beautiful. His eyes were like lotus petals. Standing in position before him, armed with his Sudarshan discus, his senses were overpowered by indignation. So he became very angry when the demon saw Sudarshan Chakra. He began to hiss like a serpent and he bit his lip in great resentment. So he was very, very angry. The demon, who had fearful tusks, stared at the personality of Godhead as though to burn him. Springing into the air, he aimed his mace at the Lord, exclaiming at the same time, you are slain. So shouting that I am going to kill you, and then he charged with his mace. He had also tusks. Varahadev also had tusks. And the demon also had tusks. O saintly Vidur, maybe there's a picture of Hiranyaksha fighting with Varahadev. O saintly Vidur, while his enemy looked on. There is a picture, I've seen that. So this is Maitreya is telling Vidur. While his enemy looked on, the Lord in his boar form, the enjoyer of all sacrificial offerings, playfully knocked down the mace with his left foot. Even as it came upon him with the force of a tempest. So he basically threw his uh, mace at the Lord with all his might, and the Lord with his left foot just knocked it on the side. Although it came with the force of like a storm. The Lord then said, "Take up your weapon and try again, eager as you are to conquer me." Challenged in these words, yeah, fighting. Maradev has tusks. He has tusks. And yet another one. That's Maradev killing with his Sudarshan Chakra. So his Lord is saying, "Take up your weapon and fight." Challenged in this verse, the demon aimed his mace at the Lord and once more loudly roared. So again he swung his mace. I mean, he threw it. When the Lord saw the mace flying towards him, he stood firmly there where he was and caught it. With the same ease as Garuda, the king of birds, would seize a serpent. So effortlessly, the Lord caught the mace. Like in Vritrasur's pastime, Indra and all the demigods were throwing all the weapons at Vritrasur. And Vritrasur, with his hand, he was just catching all those weapons like toys and he was crushing them. So the Lord was like just, he took it. His valor thus frustrated, the great demon felt humiliated and was put out of countenance. So Hiranyaksha realized, he was not a match. He was reluctant to take back the mace when it was offered by the personality of God. Varahadev said, try again. Here is your mace again. Because the Lord had caught it with his hand. And then he said, okay, here is your mace back. You can try again. But he didn't want to take the mace. He now took a trident, which was as rapacious as a flaming fire, and hurled it against the Lord. So change of weapons. Now he took a trident and he hurled it against Varahadev, the enjoyer of all sacrifices. So Krishna is Bhoktaram Yagna Tapasam. He is the enjoyer of all sacrifices. Even as one would use penance for a malevolent purpose against a holy Brahmana. Sometimes penance and austerity can be used for bad purposes, as Hiranyaksha did. He was doing penance, but he used it for bad purpose. Hurled by the mighty demon with all his strength, the flying trident shone brightly in the sky. So now he's throwing his trident. It was shining very brightly. The personality of Godhead, however, tore it to pieces with his discus, Sudarshan, which had sharp-edged rim, even as Indra cut off a wing of Garuda. Okay, there is some pastime when Indra cut off a wing of Garuda. So with this sharp disc, the trident was cut to pieces. The context of the reference given herein regarding Garuda and Indra is this. So what happened? Why Indra cut off the wing of Garuda? Prabhupada is saying. Once upon a time, Garuda, the carrier of the Lord, snatched away nectar pot from the hands of demigods in heaven in order to liberate his mother, Vinata, from the clutches of his stepmother, Kadru, the mother of serpents. So he took away Amrit. Why? Because he wanted to liberate his mother, Vinata. Vinata was the mother of Garuda, and he had a stepmother, whose name was Kadru, and Kadru is the mother of the serpents. So Kalia and others were all the descendants of Kadru. So there was already some enmity between Garuda and Kalia. So Vinata, he wanted to liberate his mother. So he took away the nectar from Indra's hands or other demigods' hands. On learning of this, Indra, the king of heaven, hurled his thunderbolt against Garuda with a view to respect the infallibility of Indra's weapon. Garuda, though otherwise invincible, being the Lord's own mount, dropped one of his wings, which was shattered to pieces by the thunderbolt. So Garuda, nobody can, injure Garuda because Garuda is the Lord's carrier and he's all powerful. But just to respect Indra's, prowess and his thunderbolt, not to humiliate Indra, he just dropped his wing as if it was cut by the thunderbolt. The inhabitants of higher planets are so sensible that even in the process of fighting, they observe the preliminary rules and regulations of gentleness. In this case, Garuda wanted to show respect for Indra. Since he knew that Indra's weapon must destroy something, he offered his wing. So that it doesn't go in vain, Indra's weapon doesn't go, like, it's not futile. So, just to respect that, Garuda dropped off his wing. But then he must have got his wing back because we know Garuda has two wings and he flies in the sky. So, having Vishnu on the back. Okay, so anyway. So just as Indra cut off the wing of Garuda, similarly, the Supreme Lord, again with his Sudarshan, he tore off the trident. The demon was enraged when his trident was cut to his mace was taken away. Now his trident was cut to pieces by the disgust of the personality of Godhead. He therefore advanced towards the Lord and roaring aloud, struck his hard fist against the Lord's broad chest. So now barehanded fighting. He came and he struck his fist against the Lord's chest, which bore the mark of Srivatsa. Then he went out of sight. So after hitting him on the chest, he disappeared. Srivatsa is a curl of white hair on the chest of the Lord, which is a special sign of his being the Supreme Personality of Godhead. It's a Kaustubha Mani and Srivatsa. In Vaikuntha Loka or in Golok Vrindavan, the inhabitants are exactly of the same form as the Personality of Godhead. So they all look same, but the two distinguishing characteristics are the Srivatsa and the Kaustubha Mani on the Lord's chest, by which they know this is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But by the Srivatsa mark on the chest of the Lord, he is distinguished from all the others. So in the Kalya pastime, which I think we will hear, we'll hear how Kaustubha Mani was given to Krishna by the wives of Kalya, Nagapatni. Hit in this manner by the demon, O Vidura. So what happened? He struck the Lord on the chest and then he disappeared. So the Lord who had appeared as the first boar did not feel the least quaking in any part of his body, any more than an elephant would when struck with a wreath of flowers. So it was like a flower hitting the chest of the Lord. Although Hiranyaksha, with all his might, he hit the Lord on his chest. But it was just like an elephant would be, a flower you throw at an elephant. As previously explained, the demon was originally a servitor of the Lord in Vaikuntha, but somehow or other he fell as a demon. His fight with the Supreme Lord was meant for his liberation. The Lord enjoyed the striking on his transcendental body, just like a fully grown-up father fighting with his child. Sometimes a father takes pleasure in having mock fight with a small child. And similarly, the Lord felt Hiranyaksha striking on his body to be like flowers offered for worship. Just as Bhishma Dev's arrows were like pleasing to the Lord. So he was thinking, yeah, this is, sometimes we fight with a little, you know, either your own child or, you fight with little one, little baby, and then they are hitting you, and you are, you feel like you are being struck or something like that. It's a mock fight. In other words, the Lord desired to fight in order to enjoy his transcendental bliss. Therefore, he enjoyed the attack. So Hiranyaksha's attack was enjoyed by the Lord. The demon, however, employed many conjuring tricks against the personality of Godhead, who is the Lord of Yoga Maya. So he disappeared. He has some mystic power he's trying to employ. At the sight of this, people were filled with alarm and thought that the dissolution of the universe was near. So he was trying to play many tricks. But Krishna is Yogeshwar, he's the master of all mystics. Little tiny tricks, Krishna can do the most amazing mystic siddhis. So it's like somebody trying to show off before a PhD his knowledge, right? Somebody is in kindergarten and they have learned some, tables, mathematical tables, and somebody is PhD in mathematics, and somebody is trying to show off their knowledge. So what it is, nothing. So the fighting enjoyment of the Supreme Lord with his devotee, who had been converted into a demon, appeared severe enough to bring about the dissolution of the universe. So it was very vigorous fighting. This is the greatness of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Even the wavering of his little finger appears to be great and very dangerous movement in the eyes of the inhabitants of the universe. So Krishna can just with his glance and his gestures can cause havoc in this world. Fierce winds began to blow from all directions, spreading darkness, occasioned by dust and hailstorms. Stones came in volleys from every corner, as if thrown by machine guns. So there was dust and the fighting was going on, and there was winds blowing. Stones were coming, because he is now exhibiting his mysticism, Hiranyaksha. The luminaries in outer space disappeared due to skies being overcast with masses of clouds. So no stars were there in the sky. Everything was overcast, dark clouds, which were accompanied by lightning and thunder. The sky rained pus, hair, blood, stool, urine, and bones. So we have no experience of this. From sky only rain comes. Sometimes, hail and all these other things come, but blood, stool, and urine is coming from the sky. Maybe it is like some trick of Hiranyaksha he is doing. Just like when Dhruva Maharaj was fighting also with the Yakshas. The Yakshas created some, very dangerous and horrible situation like this only. O sinless Vidura, mountains discharged weapons of various kinds, and naked demonesses armed with tridents appeared with their hair hanging loose. So demonesses were also coming, and their hair was hanging loose, they were not dressed. Cruel and savage slogans were uttered by a host of ruffian yakshas and rakshasas. So their curse words were uttered by yakshas and rakshasas, who all either marched on foot or rode on horses, elephants, or chariots. The Lord, the personal enjoyer of all sacrifices, now discharged his beloved Sudarshan, which was capable of dispersing the magical forces displayed by the demon. So it was like some Maya created by the demon. And Krishna discharged his Sudarshan Chakra. Even famous yogis and demons can sometimes enact very magical feats by their mystic power. But in the presence of the Sudarshan Chakra, when it is let loose by the Lord, all such magical jugglery is dispersed. The instance of quarrel between Durvasa Muni and Maharaj Amrish is a practical example in this matter. Durvasa Muni wanted to display many magical wonders. But when the Sudarshan Chakra appeared, Durvasa himself was afraid and fled to various planets for his personal protection. So first he had created the demon. He could have done more mystic things. But in front of Sudarshan Chakra, Prabhupada is saying that it was not working. The Lord is described here as three path, which means that he is the enjoyer of the three kinds of sacrifices. Three kinds of sacrifices. In the Bhagavad Gita, the Lord confirms that he is the beneficiary and enjoyer of all sacrifices, penances, and austerities. The Lord is the enjoyer of the three kinds of yajna. As further described in Bhagavad Gita, there are sacrifices of goods. So these are the three kinds of sacrifices. Sacrifice of goods means our possessions. Sacrifices of meditation means our thought. And sacrifices of philosophical speculation. Not sure what that means. Sacrifices of philosophical speculation. To understand the Lord, maybe the intelligence and meditation and sacrifices of all our belongings. So his three path is the enjoyer of the. So sometimes we say body, mind, and words. And prana artha dhiya vacha. Our life, our money, our intelligence, everything sacrificed in the service of the Lord and the soul. So that is sannyas. Sannyas means body, mind, words, and the soul, everything. Tridanda. They offer everything and all of one's possessions and everything in the service of the Lord. Those on the path of jnana, yoga, and karma all have come to end, in the end to the Supreme Lord. Because Vasudeva Sarvamiti. The Supreme Lord is the ultimate enjoyer of everything. That is the perfection of all sacrifice. Have to come in the end to the Supreme Lord. Okay. So karma, jnana and yoga, ultimately, it should culminate in surrender to the Lord. Bahunam janmanam ante jnanavan mam prapadyate. Vasudeva sarvamiti samahatma sudurlabha. That is the perfection of all sacrifice. So all knowledge, all the yoga, ultimately karma, whatever activities we do, has to culminate, have to come in the end to the Supreme Lord. Because Krishna is the proprietor of everything. So Vasudeva sarvamiti. At that very moment, a shudder suddenly ran through the heart of Diti. Why? Because Diti is now worried about her child. Although he's demon, mother's love is like that. The mother of Hiranyaksha. Because her son was about to be killed. She recalled the words of her husband Kashyap, and blood flowed from her breast. Blood is flowing from her breast. Yeah, that's what Kashyap Muni had told her before. At Hiranyaksha's last moment, his mother Diti remembered what her husband had said. Although her sons would be demons, they would have the advantage of being killed by the personality of God himself. She remembered this incident by the grace of the Lord, and her breasts flowed blood instead of milk. In many instances, that when a mother is moved by affection for her sons, milk flows from her breast. In the case of the demon's mother, the blood could not transform into milk, but it flowed down her breasts as it was. Blood transforms into milk. To drink milk is auspicious, but to drink blood is inauspicious, although they are one and the same thing. The formula is applicable in case of cow's milk also. Prabhupada says cow's milk is also nothing but transformation of the blood of the cow. So instead of killing the cow and eating beef and drinking the blood in that way, drink the milk of the cow, which is especially meant for human beings. Of course, the vegans wouldn't disagree, but cow's milk, protected cows. Milk, cow gives more milk, and then that milk, Prabhupada says, nourishes the finer brain tissues and makes us capable of understanding spiritual subject matter, the finer aspects, how I am not this body, and how I am servant of God. So all these things. So that's why sometimes this milk, Prabhupada saying here that it is also transformation of the blood of the cow. So, okay. So when the demon saw, his magic forces dispelled. So all that Maya Shakti that he had created was all with the Sudarshan Chakra, everything disappeared. All the demonesses who were there in the sky, and the sky was raining pus and urine and blood and stool, and it all went away. So when demon saw that, Hiranyaksha saw this, he once again came into the presence of the personality of Godhead, Keshava. So Keshava is Keshavadrita Shukara Rupa. Jai Jagdish Hare. Everywhere Jayadev Goswami is saying Keshava Drita. So this is the boar demon. And full of rage tried to embrace him within his arms to crush him. So he wanted to embrace the Lord and crush him within his arms. But to his great amazement, he found the Lord standing outside the circle of his arms. He was trying to embrace the Lord and crush him, but he could not grasp the Lord. The Lord was outside his arms. In this verse, the Lord is addressed as Keshava. Keshava has two meanings. One, he killed Keshi demon, and one who has beautiful hair. Kesh also means hair, Keshava. Because he killed the demon Keshi in the beginning of creation. Keshi Ghat is where the horse demon were, the one of the last demons, Keshi and Vyomasur. They came to kill Krishna, and Krishna with his, how did he kill Keshi demon? With his,
He put his hand inside his mouth.
And it was like, what happened?
Hot, very hot, iron rods.
He put his hand and it was very hot. Keshi died. So, Keshav is also a name of Krishna. Krishna is the origin of all incarnations. And it is confirmed in Brahma Samhita. But here it's saying he killed the demon Keshi in the beginning of creation. So, there may be another demon Keshi, and also Keshi who came during Krishna's Leela. Krishna is the origin of all incarnation, as it is confirmed in Brahma Samhita. That Govinda, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the cause of all causes, exists simultaneously in his different incarnations and expansions. So Krishna is there in all the incarnations. The demon's attempt to measure the Supreme Personality of Godhead is significant. So he was trying to measure, he was trying to wrap his arms around the Lord. So he's trying to, bind the Lord within his arms. But how can you bind the unlimited? The demon wanted, this is one reason also Yashoda fails to bind Krishna initially, because somebody who encapsulates everything and within whom everything is situated, how can you bind him? Because everything is within him. So how can you put a thread out, like a rope outside him? So of course these are all the Shaktis of the Lord. The demon wanted to embrace him with his arms, thinking that with his limited arms he could capture the absolute by material power. He did not know that God is the greatest of great and the smallest of the small. What is the saying that we say? Anoraniyan Mahato Mahiyan. No one can capture the Supreme Lord or bring him under his control unless you are devotee. Then you can bring Shri Krishna Akarshini. If you are doing pure devotional service only, you can bring the Lord under your control. And that's why the Lord does not give. It is Sudurlabha. Pure devotional service is very rare, because then Krishna has to come under your control. He likes to give you pure devotional service, but Prabhupada says one has to be very serious, sincere, and without ulterior motives. He has to be free from all desires for sense gratification. Then one can execute pure devotional service, and then the Lord is purchased by pure devotional service. But the demoniac person always attempts to measure the length and breadth of the Supreme Lord. By his inconceivable potency, the Lord can become the universal form, as explained in Bhagavad Gita, and at the same time, he can remain within the box of his devotees as their worshipable deity. Many devotees, they put the deity in the box. So, and he can assume the universal form, Prabhupada is saying. There are many devotees who keep a statue of the Lord in a small box and carry it with them everywhere. Every morning, they worship the Lord in the box. The Supreme Lord Keshava, or the personality of Godhead Krishna, is not bound by any measurement of our calculation. He can remain with his devotee in any suitable form, yet he is unapproachable by any amount of demoniac activities. So those who are subordinate to the Lord, then the Lord also becomes subordinate to the devotees. But those who are challenging to the Lord, then the Lord also, is not ready to be bound by such people. The demon now began to strike the Lord. So he wanted to embrace the Lord and crush him within his arms, Hiranyaksha. But the Lord, he could not hold the Lord, or the Lord was outside his arms. So now he began to strike the Lord with his hard fists. But Lord Adokshita slapped him in the root of the ear, even as Indra, the Lord of Maruts, hit the demon Ritha. The Lord is explained here to be Adokshita, beyond the reach of all material calculation. Aksha means the eyes, and Ja means that Janma, that which is perceived by the senses. Krishna is Adhokshaja, he is beyond what is one can perceive with the senses, beyond the reach of all material calculation. Akshaja means the measurement of our senses, and Adhokshaja means that which is beyond the measurement of our senses. That's why with scientific methods you cannot see the Lord, because the Lord is outside your mind, and mind is also one of the sense, and all other eyes, ears, nose. You cannot perceive the Lord with these senses because he's Adokshaja. That's why many scientists will say there is no God, because they can't perceive the Lord with the senses. But to perceive the Lord, you need a different way. You need to follow the path given by the Lord and the great souls. Then you can approach the Lord. Mahajana yena gata sapantha. So that's Krishna says. He says, "Bhaktya mam abhijanati, yavan yashashmi tatvatah, tato mam tatvato gyatva vishate tadanantaram." Only by devotional service can I be known, and He will reveal only by devotional service, not by another verse. He says, right. Bhaktya shakya aham evam vido arjuna gyatum drashtum cha tatvena praveshtum cha parantapa. He says, only by unalloyed bhakti, ananya, it is possible, shakya, bhaktyastva ananya shakya, aham eva vido arjuna, I can be known, vida. I can be known, and in this way you can understand my mind. Gyatum drashtum, you can see me, understand me, and enter into the mysteries of my understanding, something like that. Praveshtum cha parantapa. Pravesh means you can enter into my Leela only through bhakti. So, we are a bhakti movement. We are not movement of simply rules and regulations, but it is about loving the Lord. Rules and regulations are there and one should follow them, but it is meant to bring us closer to the Lord. So, those struck indifferently by the Lord. So he was pounding the Lord with his fist on the chest. The conqueror of all, the demon's body began to wheel. His eyeballs bulged out of their sockets. So he is beating the Lord, and the Lord also started beating him. Struck indifferently by the Lord, and his eyeballs came out, his arms and legs broken, and the hair on his head scattered. He fell down dead. like a gigantic tree uprooted by the wind. So he was huge, but he fell down. It does not take even a moment for the Lord to kill any powerful demon, including Hiranyaksha. The Lord could have killed him long before, but he allowed the demon to display the full extent of his magical feats. One may know that by magical feats, by scientific advancement of knowledge, or by material power, one cannot become the equal of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. His one signal is sufficient to destroy all our attempts. So not that we have some mystic siddhis and we can become equal to God. There are many yogis who have mystic siddhis, and people treat them as God because they can do wonderful things. But they are also vanquished. His inconceivable power as displayed here is so strong that the demon, despite all his demonic maneuvers, was killed by the Lord when the Lord desired, simply by one slap. So he was doing a lot of tricks, but one slap, little slap from the Lord, and it's finished. So actually, if we see around, everything is so mystical. The way our body is working and functioning, it's mystical, right? How the organs are working, and the eye, how the eye is able to see a far object and it's able to see a near object in a matter of seconds, right? And how the focal length of the lens changes in the eye. It's all mystical. Nobody can create an eye in the laboratory, right? The scientists cannot create an artificial eye. The blood is also, your blood banks, where people didn't donate blood. Why can't they create blood in the laboratory? In the industry, there are so much invention is going on. But can anybody create blood? Can't create blood. You can't create an eye. You can't create a kidney. All the parts of our body are like, mystically, working. Krishna's design. So many things in this world, if you look around, it's all a miracle. So many gigantic planets floating in the sky, and the earth is also there, and everything is a miracle. So many different kinds of species of life they're fully equipped. Prabhupada says even a small mosquito is fully equipped, like to suck blood and eat and mate and everything. The mosquito is fully equipped, a little tiny, flying in the air. I mean, how did this all happen about? The one thing is that we can say it's by chance, but chance doesn't work. Like, how can it happen, chance? So it is all mystical arrangement of God. So, in like that, we should appreciate God. That yes, I'm living in this body, but I don't even know how body is working. And of course, medical doctors they spend their life trying to understand one part of the body, and when it goes bad, sometimes there is no cure also. So like that, it is. Every day we are living is a magical. It's magical. Aja and others arrived on the spot. So Brahma came. He's also called Aja, unborn. Arrived on the spot to see the fearfully tusked demon lying on the ground, biting his lip. So the Lord gave him a little slap and he was on the ground. And Brahma came to see him. The glow of his face was yet unfaded, and Brahma admiringly said, "Oh, who could meet such blessed death?" Because he was killed by Supreme Lord. Although the demon was dead, his bodily luster was unfaded. Still he was glowing. This was very peculiar. When a man or animal is dead, the body immediately becomes pale. The luster gradually fades and decomposition takes place. So he was dead actually, but still his face was glowing. But here, although Hiranyaksha lay dead, his bodily luster was unfaded because the Lord, the Supreme Spirit, was touching his body or had touched his body. One's bodily luster remains fresh only as long as the spirit soul is present. Yeah, we may have seen, dead bodies and how they appear lifeless, that charm in the eye and everything is gone. And although it may have been decorated very nicely, but you can perceive that it's lifeless. So as long as the spirit soul is there, the body remains fresh. Although the demon soul had departed his body, the supreme spirit touched the body, and therefore his bodily luster did not fade. Which other instance in Krishna Lila of something happened? Anybody can remember?
Putana,
Putana, correct.
her body was smelling very nice fragrance was coming.
Correct. When they burn, usually when you burn a dead body, it gives a smell, not so nice. So, but Putana, when she was burned, it's like aguru and camphor, like that is very fragrant because Krishna had touched her and all her anarthas have been removed, sucked out by Krishna. The individual soul is different. So also Prabhupada said his devotees are bright faced like that, because they have been touched by Krishna, Krishna's holy name, like that. So they appear to be very like anxiety free. That's why devotees can sleep anywhere, which may be good or bad, but in the class also sometimes. But uh, devotees are free from anxiety. So they depend on Krishna. Sometimes when you don't get sleep, you have to think of Krishna and say, Krishna, I'm depending on you for my sleep. You are the one. Because sleep also is like sometimes, there is a fear. Because you are going into the unknown. You don't have any control now. You are sleeping. You are not conscious. So there is some fear that if I die in sleep, what will happen if I don't remember Krishna? So sometimes it's like you're going into the unknown situation. Of course, sleep is necessary for the healthy body, to keep the body healthy. But it is so mystical how you get sleep. You're lying down on the bed and you are just closing your eyes, and then suddenly you drift away into sleep. And how it happens, you cannot pinpoint the moment it happens. It is Krishna's mercy that we can sleep. If we suffer from insomnia, then we can't sleep, we can't function. So Krishna is the one who is giving us sleep so that we can function. And when there is less anxiety and dependence on Krishna and you are surrendered to Krishna, then there is no tension. Krishna, you take care of me. And while thinking, you go to sleep. Like that. The individual soul is different from the Supreme Personality of Godhead. One who sees the Supreme Personality of Godhead when he quits his body is certainly very fortunate. Prabhupada said like that, when I go to sleep, I think I'm wasting my time. Now that I'm going to sleep, it's a waste of time. I feel that. So he would get up. In 2-3 hours, he would sleep and he would get up. Of course, we can't do that. But he was thinking like that this is just a waste of time because Raghunath Das Goswami did not sleep only. Hardly he slept because he was so much getting rasa in bhakti from thinking about Radha Krishna Lila that he was so absorbed he can't sleep only. When you are in some very interesting thing, sometimes there is a cricket match going on. I can identify with all these things. So before, you would wake up early in the morning. Why? Because it's a very exciting match going on in Australia or somewhere, and you get up, and it's so absorbing that even though you have not slept, still you are glued to the TV, and because it's very exciting. So for the spiritualists, thinking about Radha Krishna and serving Radha Krishna, and it's so exciting that they don't feel like sleeping. We can't imitate. But one who sees the Supreme Personality of Godhead when he quits his body is certainly very fortunate. And therefore, personalities like Brahma and other demigods eulogized the death of the demon. So, seeing the Lord when you quit your body, or remembering the Lord when you quit your body, is very fortunate. Ante Narayana Smriti. Even those who died on the battle of Kurukshetra saw the Lord and they attained Sarupya Mukti. So, The demon was fortunate. Of course, now you can say, well, he's already a liberated personality, right? He's from the spiritual world, so. But that you have to keep it aside for the time being. Then you can understand that how he was fortunate. Brahma continued, he was struck by a forefoot of the Lord, whom yogis, seeking freedom from their unreal material bodies, meditate upon in seclusion in mystic trance. So the Lord had, touched him with his foot. So yogis want to get out of this false bodily, entanglement. Prabhupada says, yogis seeking freedom from their unreal material bodies. Material body is not real because it is there. Of course, it is real, but it is so temporary that it is there and it's gone, so it's not real. Na sato vidyate bhavo, na bhavo vidyate satah. Ubhayorapi drishtantas tvanayos tattvadarshibhi. Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, second chapter, the seers of truth have concluded that if something is true, then it should not cease to exist. And if something is false, then it doesn't last. So, in that sense, material body doesn't last. So it is false. It's there and it's gone. Like it's there. Was it there? Yes, it was there, but it's gone forever. So, of course, we are not like Mayavadis. We don't say it's. But it is very fleeting. So, unreal material bodies. Meditate upon in seclusion. They want to, in the sixth chapter of Bhagavad Gita, I think, Krishna describes that how the yogis wait for the opportune moment when they can leave their body, when the sun is traveling in north and all this. While gazing on his countenance, this crest jewel of Diti's son has cast off his mortal coil. So he cast off his mortal body while looking at Varahadev. The process of yoga is we'll stop with this verse. The process of yoga is very clearly described in this verse of Srimad Bhagavatam. It is said here that the ultimate end of yogis and mystics who perform meditation is to get rid of this material body. So, material body, having accepted a material, being engaged in material body is not good sign. We are imprisoned, and we should not engage in activities which will prolong our material bodies, getting more material bodies. That's what Rishabdev says. Kashtan kama narhati vidbhujami tapo divyam. That verse. Yad indriya priti aprunoti. How does it start? Kurute vikarma. Yad indriya priti aprunoti.
Nunam pramatta kurute.
Nunam pramatta kurute vikarma. Yad indriya priti aprunoti. Tat sadhu mani yatatmanayam asannapi klesha ashadeha. So he says, yes. The more we engage in sense gratification, the more we are setting up for our getting more material bodies in this in this material existence. And although the body can give some little enjoyment, it can give a lot of misery. And so, because we don't know any other happiness than sense gratification, of course devotees know, but then that is the only happiness. And that's why, one gets bound by these desires for sense gratification, and he gets one body after another in this. That's why at some point you have to renounce this bodily sense gratification. And 75% of the varnashram is designed to not have bodily sense gratification. 75% of one's lifespan, one is not meant to have bodily sense gratification. Because it is only due to the bodily conception of life that one becomes bound by a sense of I and mine. We think, oh, this is my child. Arey, he's a soul. He's not your child. You may think he's your child, but actually he's the soul. He's part and parcel of Krishna. But one gets attached like that to Ato griha kshetra sutapta vittir janasya mohaya maham mameti. I and mine, one gets attached. And then one feels that this is mine, this is mine. But everything is Krishna's. So even if one has child, one should think that this is Krishna's child. And nothing is mine because you can't keep with you. You can't keep your child with you. Either you will die or your child will die. So how is it yours? You can't keep with you in that way. Uh, of course, there is natural attraction because it's based on the bodily conditioning. Nature has made it like that. Even the tigress is very fond of its cubs. Very fierce to the deer, but very attached to its cubs. That if you, it will do anything to protect its cubs, because there is a feeling of this is my cub, my child. So we hear how Sridhar Swami, how he took sannyas. He had a newborn and he was thinking how, and then there was a lizard that came, baby lizard, and the baby lizard, he immediately an insect came before the baby lizard, and the baby lizard got its food. So he was thinking, yes, I am not the maintainer of anybody. Krishna is maintaining. So even the baby lizard, who is maintaining? Krishna is providing its food. So the child will also survive like that. Of course, it is not like we shirk our duties and in the name of renunciation like that. Once you have your duty, you have to fulfill your duties. It's not like you just you know enjoy sense gratification and then you don't have to perform your duties. That is irresponsible. But yeah, but the great souls like Sridhar Swami, they are surrendered to Krishna. They can give. So we should not create so many duties that will hinder our Krishna consciousness. So, or our duties should be done in relation to Krishna. But if there are too many duties, then it interferes with our sadhana and our chanting and everything else, our preaching, and then we are confined to our small narrow family instead of seeing the world as a family. Vasudhaiva Kutumbikam. We are confined to our narrow family. So at some point it is said that one should give up the narrow mindedness and see the whole world as one's family. So that is the whole. You have to broaden your vision. So okay. So anyway, the process of yoga is clearly described in this verse on Srimad Bhagavatam. It is said here that the ultimate end of yogis and mystics who perform meditation is to get rid of this material body. Therefore, they meditate in secluded places to attain yogic trance. Yoga has to be performed in a secluded place, not in public, or in a demonstration on a stage, as nowadays practiced by many so-called yogis. Real yoga aims at ridding one of the material body. So Prabhupada says one should pursue self-realization on the basis of the non-existence of material body. Thinking that I am spirit soul, I should focus on the needs of the soul and as much as is needed for the body, upkeep of the body, that much only. Yoga practice is not intended to keep the body fit and young. Such advertisements of so-called yoga are not approved by any standard method. Particularly mentioned in this verse is the word yam, or unto whom, indicating that meditation should be targeted on the personality of God. Even if one concentrates his mind on the Bore form of the Lord, that is also yoga, because he is Supreme Lord. As confirmed in Bhagavad Gita, one who concentrates his mind constantly in meditation upon the personality of Godhead in one of his many varieties of forms is the first class yogi. Yogi nam api sarvesham. Madgatena antaratmana shraddhavan bhajate yomam samayukta tamamataha. 6th chapter, last verse. And he can very easily attain trance simply by meditating upon the form of the Lord. If one is able to continue such meditation on the Lord's form at the time of one's death, one is liberated from this mortal body and is transferred to the kingdom of God. Antakale chamameva smaran mukta kalekvaram ya prayati samadbhavam yati nashti atra sanchaya. This opportunity was given to the demon by the Lord, and therefore Brahma and other demigods were astonished. In other words, perfection of yoga practice can be attained by a demon also if he is simply kicked by the Lord. So yogis are trying so hard, but here, without trying, he got some mercy, causeless mercy. Was kicked. Okay. So any comments? Anybody else? Stop here. So what should we do next? Should we stop or should we hear something?
You can hear. I think we didn't finish the class yesterday,
Okay,
right?
we can hear that class. Let me share this.
स्कंद तक पहुंचने की तैयारी है। और दशम स्कंद भागवत का केंद्र स्थान है। जो बताना था सुखदेव जी को, परीक्षित जी को, वो था कृष्ण लीला। कृष्ण लीला को सुनने के लिए योग्यता बनाने के लिए नौ स्कंद का निर्माण किया और बाद में उनको